These are notes on the percent equation. We're going to be working on problems like what number is 80% of 20, or 16 is 30% of what number. So by the end of the notes for today, you should be able to answer questions like that. To start, anytime you see the word is, you need to put an equal sign there. So anytime you see the word is, that means equals. The word of, that is going to mean multiply. So you can put an X for multiplication, or you can put a dot for multiplication. If you do that as your first step, that will help you set up your equation so that you know what to do to solve it. Our first example, what number is 35% of 40? So right away, I have the word is, so I need an equal sign. The word of, I'm going to put multiplication. Now the next part for what number, that's my unknown. So I'm going to use a variable to represent what number. Anytime you have a percent when you're setting up problems like this, you need to write it as either a fraction out of 100 or as a decimal. So I'm going to change 35% into 35 hundredths, and I can do that by dividing by 100, which slides my decimal point over 2 places. And the last piece, I have the number 40. So my new equation, n equals 35 hundredths multiplied by 40. And now I can simplify 35 hundredths multiplied by 40. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14. Now my decimal place, I'm going to move it over a total of 2 places from the right. So I get 14 as my answer. Now the final piece, plug it back in and make sure your answer is reasonable. So 14 is 35% of 40. That does seem reasonable because 25% of 40 would be 10, and 50% of 40 would be 20. So we're looking for a number between 10 and 20, so 14 makes sense. On our next example, we need to find the percent. So just like before, the word is, put an equal sign. The word of, put a multiplication symbol. Okay, so I have the number 12 and the number 60. I'm just going to rewrite those below. And the last piece, for what percent, I'm going to use the variable p to represent the percent. So let's rewrite this. 12 equals p multiplied by 60. I have a one-step equation. The opposite of multiplying by 60 is dividing by 60. So divide by 60 on both sides. 60 divided by 60 is 1. So I get 1p. And on the left-hand side, I need to figure out 12 divided by 60. So 12 will not go into 1. It will not go into 12. But if I add a decimal point, and 0, 60 will go into 120 twice, and it comes out to be exactly 120. So I get 2/10 as my number for p. Because I'm looking for a percent, I have to go back and change 2/10 into a percent, and I can do that by multiplying by 100. So I get 200 and move the decimal point over 1 place. So 2/10 is equal to 20%. Okay, so 12 is 20% of 60, and that seems reasonable. We're on the lower end of that percent. Third example, 40 is 36% of what number? So again, equal sign for is, multiplication for of, and then we can fill everything else in. 40, 36%, I'm going to divide by 100 and change this to 36 hundredths of what number? So I have 40 equals 36 hundredths multiplied by n. Now we're going to divide by 36 hundredths on each side. And I get 1n. And then I'm going to do 40 divided by 36 hundredths. Now, it's not the best to divide by a decimal, so I'm going to multiply by 100. That'll move my decimal point over 2 places. So I need to do the same thing to 40. Multiply by 100. Now I'm going to rewrite the problem, 4,000 divided by 36. That'll give me the same answer as 40 divided by 36 hundredths. 36 goes into 40 once. Subtract, bring down the 0. 36 goes into 40 once. Subtract, bring down the next digit. And as you can see, we're going to keep repeating the same thing over and over and over again. So if I do a decimal point with another 0 to bring down, I'm going to get a repeating 1 on the end of my number. So n is 111.1 with the 1 repeating. Next, I want you to try these 3 problems on your own. So pause the video now until you have a chance to try them. Now that you've had a chance to try them, let's check your work and make sure you understand. So for number 1, what number, I can use a variable, is, use an equal sign, 10% is 10 hundredths of, is multiply, and the number 20. So n equals 10 hundredths multiplied by 20. So multiply those two together, 20 times 10 hundredths. And you're going to move your decimal point over 2 places, so you get the number 2. So n equals 2. So that would make sense. If you get 2 out of 20 on a quiz, that would be a 10%. So hopefully you're not getting 2 out of 20 on your quizzes. Okay, next example. 2 is what percent of 600? Divide by 600 on each side. So you get 1p. And we're going to do 2 divided by 600. Now we're going to have to add a decimal point with several zeros. 600 will not go into 2 or 20 or 200, but it will go into 2000 3 times. When we subtract, we get 200. We're going to add a 0 to bring down. And we're going to start getting a repeating number over and over. So I get 0.0033. Now the last piece, remember you have to multiply that by 100 to change it into a percent. So the final percent is 0.33 repeating with the percent symbol after it. All right, final one that you tried on your own. 8 is 80% of what number? So you're going to divide by 80 hundredths, or 8 tenths on each side. And if you need to, you can set up 8 divided by 0.80. Multiply by 100 to slide your decimal over. And 800 divided by 80 is 10. So 8 is 80% of 10. And that makes sense. 8 out of 10 on a quiz would be an 80%. So hopefully that's closer to what you're getting on your quizzes. To summarize, you need to make sure that anytime you are setting up an equation like this, you put an equal sign where is, and then you put a multiplication symbol where the word of is. If you set up the equation just like the statement says, then you should be good to get the correct answer.